I am unashamed. What about you?
So we're barreling now to the end of duck season. When you get at this point, there's only like 3 or 4 days left.
Yeah, 3 days.
Yep.
We've implemented the implementation of divide and conquer has now entered the format, which put 2 blinds with a spread of decoys. Mm-hmm. 2 blinds tend to be better than 1 blind because ducks are going over there and going over here. Well, if you have guns on number 1 and number 2, you have the odds are with you. Add another one to that, 3 blinds with each have a spread of decoys, 3 chances for ducks to say, I don't like this over here, but over here, plus you cover a wider range of territory.
Yep.
But be honest, then that provokes competition.
Yeah.
Which then everybody, let's get the old dogs versus the young dog. Phil's calling us young dogs.
These young bucks. The old dogs will say, well, strap it on the young bucks.
Young doesn't mean what it used to.
No.
But the young dogs are in their 50s now.
That's right. This is an aging dog.
I just looked around at the whole bunch the other day, and everybody gray-headed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
At this stage, I'm physically wore down, just... cuts and bruises.
It takes a little while to kind of recoup for y'all.
I was watching the duck blood I had on my fingers and hands from picking up the dead ducks and passing them from the vehicle to the boat to the vehicle, and I was eating a chicken sandwich at the time, and I thought, oh well, a little duck blood, you never know the difference.
Yeah. Well, as I'm the one doing more work, and I'm like, is that my blood? Or
yeah, you start to wonder who it belongs to. So for our audience to know, so during duck season especially, I've been bringing out some, we all like Chick-fil-A, which is, we call it Jesus chicken, because they're well-known Christians, but they make really good chicken biscuits, chicken sandwich. So today we had to do a Popeye. I wanted y'all to. You've never tried the Popeyes.
That was the first time
because we like Popeyes too. Popeyes is really good. It's a Louisiana company. Yeah. So today I brought out the Popeyes spicy chicken sandwich. So what would you say? Because it's Popeyes tried to make this a thing, but the problem was Popeyes didn't quite have the apparatus set up to take on Chick-fil-A. So they got shut down for months trying to get, they just got swamped with people wanting to try their chicken sandwich. But I've eaten one. I thought it was really good.
It was good.
I thought it was right there with a Chick-fil-A. I thought it was eerily similar.
It is. Yeah. There's a little bit different how they spice it.
A little more egg wash on which ones you do today?
Popeyes was
Popeyes. Popeyes had a little more.
A little crunchier.
A little more egg wash.
Right.
You put anything in an egg wash, including duck. I mean, you got something going there.
This year, we need to talk about that. We discovered all the years we've duck hunted, and we've eaten ducks, I thought, any way you could eat them, but we had never really, I don't remember ever trying fried duck. But
we never came up with what we're calling duck fingers.
Yep.
You take the breast out on both sides of the center part, and you make about 4 slices, about a little half inch, maybe a little less, fingers, and that's so you get 8 fingers per duck, and salt and black pepper, and you put saltwater brine on them for a night.
Which takes all the gaminess out of it.
Yeah, pour all that off. It takes the blood out, a little salt water, take all that out. Then you put them in buttermilk. Put a buttermilk in a plastic bag, let them sit there all night so they soak up the buttermilk.
It's a couple of days of prep.
Take them out, egg wash, flour them, fry them fast in peanut oil, then sprinkle whatever seasoning you want on them, whether you like it spicy or not.
It has been...
But even the women are like, I mean, like coyotes on a dead deer carcass. I mean, the women got all fired up about that. That is duck. They said, well, I thought duck bones taste like liver, but this tastes just as good. So
Phil's one of the few people that he needs like a sound meme.
That's right.
You know how everybody, they have the memes.
That's right.
Where you can show a picture of somebody that expresses how you feel. You probably are not familiar with this, Phil.
The hot one now is Bernie Sanders. Have you seen it from the inauguration?
Well, look, one of my close friends, listen to this, Al. It's weird you bring that up. One of my close friends sends me a picture, and it's in a boat. Me, Phil, I had no gray hair, so that should have told you right there we may have a problem.
Been a while.
It was me, you, and Burley. But we all looked about 10 years younger, and Bernie Sanders was in the middle wearing a mask. And he said, when did y'all take Bernie Sanders hunting? Yeah, they had him photoshopped in there. And I went, ha. And he put, no, really. I mean, I didn't respond, nor do I plan to, because I thought we were friends. But I wanted to put, you may go now. That's just real story.
Well, so BK yesterday was showing me all these ones. Apparently, at the inaugurations, Bernie Sanders had on somebody had crocheted him some mittens. And so he's got all his warm stuff on. And the way he's sitting, just kind of like he's sitting there like, doesn't give a crap about what's going on. And that thing you talk about going viral. BK was showing me they got him in the classroom and all these different things. I mean, like it's become now this whole huge thing.
So you could say, I'm hungry and send a sound meme. Yeah. And it could be Phil.
Well, Dad.
Hi.
It's like coyotes on a deer.
You're never going to see Bernie Sanders in my boat. Ever.
Yeah, it was only a dream. It was only a dream.
Are you saying you don't take Marxist duck hunting? Is that what you're saying?
Here's my cooking DNA for the way we live. So if you want to bake, you start off with a stick of butter. If you want to do any kind of grilling or things that come to wrapping with meats, you start off with bacon.
Okay.
If you want to fry, you start off with some eggs.
Yep.
You want egg wash.
Egg wash.
Everything else, you want the trinity, which would be the bell pepper, onion, and garlic.
Yep.
Celery.
And celery is another. It's not quite the trinity, but it's in the.
Okay, celery.
It's like the Bible in the trinity.
I put the fourth. Celery as like kind of the extra book that wasn't discovered. It's like the
Apocrypha.
So anyway, I didn't read that somewhere. I had it prepared that. It just literally came to the top of my head.
You cook anything, an onion, bell pepper, celery, garlic if you want. We usually do. You cook anything
wait a minute,
with
Phil.
that particular.
Yeah. I'm going to say garlic, onion, bell pepper. I got the choice optional is celery.
Garlic bump celery. Yeah. I'll go
do
with
you
celery.
agree?
I'll go with celery.
Instead of garlic?
Celery and garlic. I'll go celery and
He's saying he's adding one to the trinity.
Okay. Let's amend my made up cooking. We'll add celery in there.
So you never really thought about COVID costing you your home, but it's possible. Unfortunately, cybercrime is up 75% because of so many more people on the computer now. Basically, your title is digital, and anything that's digital is potentially hackable. And so that's what's happened to some people, which is really sad. And so there's a company that's been with us a long time that's really helps you to be able to protect your home. It's called Home Title Lock, because your insurance doesn't cover you or it doesn't cover common identity theft programs. So you think your insurance would handle that, but they don't.
Shocker.
So you wind up getting stuck is what happens. So look, you want to check these guys out. They're going to make sure that no one's been tampering around with your title to your home. So you go to HomeTitleLock.com. You register your address. Make sure you're not already a victim. Use radio, and you receive 30 free days of protection. So that's code radio at HomeTitleLock.com. All right, so my buddy Matt Lyda, who's going to be on the podcast next week, I think, or week after. So he sent me this text this morning, Jase. So I just thought about it. He said, you have to ask Jase about what's going on in the market on the podcast. This is the hottest subject in the world right now. Is what he said.
Thank you.
I didn't even know. I haven't watched it.
You know how many texts I've gotten in the last 24 hours and phone calls over this? What's going on in the stock market? Ridiculous. Look, I have a small group of people that our family are really close friends that I help, and we make money on the stock market. All of these people and a lot of people that I don't know real well, I would say 3 this morning. What are we going to do about GameStop and Nokia and ACM, which is a movie theater? So what's happening is, it's a little complicated. Some people are like saying this company is going to go down, so they call it a short. Well, then a group of people say, I'll tell you what, let's just buy it and make it go up, because we can do that. We get enough people buying it.
So let me interject a question, because I'm a novice, but I've heard stuff, so I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So when you talk about hedge fund people, they make money off the short, right? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, I mean, just think a hedge is like, or contrarian is like everything's going one way and you're getting something going the other way to make sure that you can stay in the middle or slightly up as you go along. I mean, the true pros in this who are doing all these day trading options, selling calls and puts, which call is the positive, put is the negative. These people, I'm probably, I'm guessing here, but most of these people need counseling, and they have their heart rate is very high. I mean, you're talking about stressful. You're basically trying to predict all this. It kind of brings a crystal ball in there. Look, people have methods that work, and there's people making millions of dollars.
We've been on a couple of yachts with a couple of guys that did pretty well, haven't we, Dad?
So look, so one of the people I'm helping in my family, yesterday the market was way down. And so even though you don't try to time the market, it's best if you have a list and you see the stocks that you want, the companies that you've researched and invested in that you're going to hold for 3 to 5 years or longer. We're longtime investors. That's me. So I want to just illustrate what's going on with the person in my family that I'm helping that knows very little about the stock market. So I take her money, and she's doing great. I picked her like 20 stocks, and 19 of them just took off like rockets. And it wasn't like I had a bunch of high growth stocks. We just got them at the right time. I picked the right ones. One of them went down, we bought some more, and then it finally got back to even, and we sold it. So we're all happy. We got 19 performing stocks. And so the one we sold, I had that money to buy some more. I said, next time the market falls, we'll buy something. So yesterday, it got hammered. So I call her up. And so we're spending the money on stocks that I've picked. I think we added a couple, because we didn't add to anything else. They're all just doing great. Well, we had like $1,000 left over, and she wanted to buy one of these stocks that we're discussing. No, but I need more cash. I could make some quick cash. Ooh. I said, we don't do quick cash. We spent your cash. So here's what you buy. I wanted her to buy Pinterest, because she wanted some more high growth stock. It was down like $10 off its 52-week high, which doesn't mean anything, but I really like that company. Yep. And I bought Pinterest at like $10, and I think it's went to like 77, and it was 62 when I was telling her to buy it. That's just for you people that are following the stock. I said, buy that. And so she didn't want to. And I said, if you do not buy Pinterest and you buy this company, I said, I resign from this arrangement that I'm doing for free and making you lots of money. Now, I tell you this story. Here's why.
This is a clash of two stubborn people. I can tell you that.
Well, hang on. This was yesterday. Today, I didn't know you were going to ask me this. Yeah. Today, first thing I did at 8:30, I looked up that stock she wanted to buy. It was down 42%. Mm-hmm. Do the math. There's $420 gone bye-bye. And the rest of it is sitting up in the hole, ready to leave. And you know how many texts I've got today? And by the way, Pinterest was up 5%, which doesn't mean anything in a one-day window. But I just thought, where's the thank you? Where's the I was wrong? What was I thinking? Stay in my lane. You know why I think that it hadn't happened? Because she hadn't looked.
Yeah, I'm never entering your world just from that little short speech. I'm not entering that world.
But anyway, I didn't mean to chase a rabbit. But here's what I want to say.
Godliness with contentment is great gain.
Do you want to take a break before I say that?
Yeah, let's take a break. Well, Jase, I've been, Lisa and I are buying a place closer to the water because she loves the beach.
That's what I heard.
She's a beach girl. And so one of our sponsors, we used what they're offering, and it helped us just like they said it would. It's a company called ScoreMaster. And it isn't credit repair, but it's credit science that helps you get points added to your credit score. And so, we're about to, do this loan. And so we want to be able to get the best possible, rate. And so the higher numbers definitely help. We tried it. It works. I can vouch for them. So it's great for everyone. Mortgage brokers, they all looking for the edge. We like us having the edge, which is much better. So you can enroll in minutes. You go to scoremaster.com/Phil. That's scoremaster.com/Phil and find out how many points you can add. I did it. It works.
What I want to say is what I do is I long-term invest in companies that I research and spend a lot of time in. I try to keep my emotions out of it. I buy little amounts at a time when the market's usually down. And if it goes down, I buy a little more. If it goes down, I buy a little more. But I believe in the company. When it goes back up, I don't trim for gains because I don't need the money that I have invested, which is the best way to be, in my opinion. So I trim the top, what they call tax lot that I bought at first to get my cost basis down. And so I just do that over and over, and I find, companies that I feel are great for the next 10, 15 years. And that's just kind of how I do it. I keep my emotions out of it. When everybody's panicking, the last thing I'm doing is panicking.
Or to the world, Wall Street.
So, Al,
Jase has his own show for that.
I will say this, the best, because now people are going to be curious. And all the time, they're like, give us stocks. Look, you have to be diversified. You need at least 15 stocks, companies, and you need a couple of high growth stocks that in the macro world make sense, big picture, and you can read a balance sheet, look at their revenue growth every time they report 4 times a year, so you can see, is this company growing? Yes. You can look at their gross profit margin and say, and not only are they growing, they're also maximizing.
And some of it's just looking at innovation and stuff that's happening in the world, right?
Yeah, you got macro people and you have people. I think you got to be a combination of both. But you need, some of these companies are slow moving, dividend type stocks. But I like to get the best in breed, as they say, in each. It doesn't take a whole lot of sense to realize, Lowe's, the store Lowe's.
Yeah.
If you can get that at a really low price, probably going to be a good thing. Johnson & Johnson, okay. Disney.
Yeah.
Disney, when the pandemic hit, it went way down. Guess what? I bought it because I thought at some point Disney World is coming back. They also have a streaming service out there.
But they've now.
So I bought it at like $90. It's, I think today, $175.
Yeah, rolling.
You see how that works.
So what I love about the Unashamed podcast is you never know what you're going to get. It could be a Bible study. It could be a stock rally. It could be a lot of different things.
So whatever the reason that's happening now.
Jase is as close as I've ever come to the stock market.
Yeah.
But I've never gone past it. I just know he's...
Well, you thought about giving me some money for me to invest for you. And that's as far as it went. But I took that as an accomplishment.
Moving on.
I want to talk about it. So Zach and I produce this podcast, and we also produce Sadie's podcast, and also the Duck Call Room, which is a fairly new podcast that's kind of our company. I guess you call it our sister podcast because it's Cy and Stone and Godwin and Martin. And but so a listener sent me in a question, Dad. It said Cy was telling the story of when Phil used to rob bees and beehives on their podcast. So they were like, I want to hear Phil's version. It took me back to my youth when I saw the question, because I remember that as a kid. But so what was the process? I don't know what Cy said. Who knows? I'm sure he just made it. But what was the idea? Why did you do it? And how did you do it?
Find a beehive in a hollow tree.
Yep.
Move in on it. Get you some smoke going at the bottom of the tree.
Yep.
Take a chainsaw. Be careful. You get it open. You got plenty of smoke. You get stung multiple times. No bee suit.
So the smoke doesn't keep you from getting stung.
It just kind of
clears some of them out.
Kind of clears some of them out.
I got you.
And they're worried about it. Then get your honey. Cut you out some whatever honeycomb. Put it in a wash tub. And some are better than others.
Right.
But you do that in the summer where they have time to build it back.
Right.
So
how did you discovered that just from hunting?
Watching my uncles and my dad and all that.
So it was a family.
We're going to rob a bee tree today. They found a bee tree in the woods.
Yeah.
And that's where they got their hunting. The women put it in jars with the cone in it. You've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just robbing wild beehives.
Now, the time Cy famously got stung, I think, 28 times in the rear end. That was a different sort of.
That was black bumblebees coming after under a rotted fence post.
Well, he told me
he split his britches because I said run because they just started coming out of his
How
hole.
old were y'all?
Oh, we were
boys.
We were in high school.
Okay.
And I said, run, Cy. Since I was the faster man, Cy busted his britches going under the barbed wire fence and shook the post. Here comes the bumblebee.
So now there's a white flag.
There's a white flag going down through the woods, and they just dive-bombed that white flag. He would try to speed up with each sting, but it was like, I think he counted them 27 times on the buttocks.
So, can you imagine? Because Cy's a noisemaker anyway.
Oh, I always picking the stingers out of him.
Out of his rear end.
Out of his rear
I
end.
hope you didn't see that.
Here's how many times I got stung.
That's zero for those used
Sometimes speed is a good thing to have.
I agree with that.
Well, that's why I always used to say about we'd go on a hike.
We're running through the woods with the black-faced bumblebees after us. White-face, no problem. Black-face, sting a man.
We were hiking in Alaska with John and Paula Godwin. I said, well, I feel safe because, bears, they got the big grizzly bears. I said, I feel pretty good because as long as I'm with Godwin, I'm faster than him.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Al, that's exactly when we went to Montana. I just looked around because we're on these hiking trails, and it's a lot of people. And I thought, I'm faster than most.
That's right. That's right.
Because they won't let you bring a gun.
No.
So, I had a knife. You wasn't supposed to have that. But I thought,
they had this sound.
One time I read it, and Believe It or Not. Remember that?
Yep.
Believe It or Not.
Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Well, believe it or not, I just happened to read that one day, and it said, bees and wasps will not sting at night.
Believe it or not.
I thought, I have a wealth of information in that statement. I said, guys, my cousins and all, I said, boys, that bee tree y'all been wanting to rob, I said, we do it at night.
So you believed it.
That is correct. I thought believe it or not meant they won't sting you at night. So we go out there at night, and one genius out of the bowl bunch said, when I walked up to the tree with a chainsaw to saw it down, he said, but if we're shining flashlights, will they think it's daytime? I said, turn your flashlights off. So they turned them off. I saw the tree down, and within about 30 seconds, we found out bees will sting at night. And because I started getting the honey out, they were not flying so much. They were doing a lot of crawling, but I'm getting the area ready where I know the honey is. Yep. And I began to work on that. And I hollered back. I said, some of these didn't get the memo. I said, that believe it or not, don't believe it, boys. They're stinging me. Well, all they were doing, they were hiding behind the bushes, laughing. I said, I've come this far. I'm going to get this, honey.
So would you consider
So I come out of there, I was stung a lot.
Would you consider that a lie?
Well,
misinformation, whatever you want to call it. But I got news for you. If you want to rob a bee tree, if you do it at night, they will tear your tail up.
Let's take a break. But in Ripley's defense, he says, believe it or not. So it's up to you.
Which means this is not new information. You don't have to believe it.
That's right.
Well, I didn't believe it until I went out there at night and they tore me up.
But that's something that they should have.
Oh, gonna call him. LSU fans.
I like the LSU.
The way it was put, believe it or not, bees and wasps cannot sting at night. Well, I thought, believe it or not, I said, that would be really something.
Well, it sounded like it should be true.
I think
that's
people
right.
say, believe it or not, that's actually true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that the say?
Yeah, but like there's a Ripley's, there's still a Believe It or Not museum in New York. I just took the kids to it last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so some of it is obviously they had the headhunters where they shrink their little heads down. So they're like, believe it or not. So you're not sure, is this real? Is it, there's a lot of stuff like that. So, but that was back in the day. That all happened back in the early 1900s. Yep. There was kind of what would you call it? A showman thing across America with stuff like that. And
now I just buy honey from different people out of Texas.
It's not worth getting stuff.
They've got their bee boxes back there. And
Jeff and Jessica,
but the wild honey was really good.
Right.
They have bees galore and honey.
Yeah, they had it on their property. I mean, they were like...
Well, they still do. First thing when I went to Austin, she gave me a big jar, and it had a piece of honeycomb in it. It was filled with honey. I mean, it was better grade of honey than I've ever eaten in a store.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that, and I should do this because I'm the worst allergy person in the world, that if you eat local honey, because bees pollinate, that it helps with your allergic reactions to stuff in the air, which made sense.
Believe it or not?
I would believe
it could
that.
be. But it made sense to me because they pollinate all these flowers and stuff. So maybe so. They say.
I mean, I'm seeing a theme here, and we didn't even plan. This is kind of like the stock market because everything is, believe it or not, this this company is great. Because look, I'm gonna tell you, if you're getting your information from the talking heads on TV, you're probably gonna lose.
Well,
because they say that.
Are there companies out there that would make it look like to you that they're doing great? When the reality is they're scrapping for every last dime.
There's some of that, sure.
They're hanging by a thread. Could they cook the books and make it look like they're prosperous in order to get you to invest in their stock?
The short answer is yes. However, in America, American stocks, it's less likely that that's happening because we put people in prison. There are laws. Now, in China, and you can buy Chinese stocks.
China.
I have zero, even though people are like, oh, this is hot, but they don't have the same mechanism in place.
So you can't believe what's coming.
Like one of the places where I get advice, they bought.
What you're trying to say is they will lie to you. They
bought a Chinese coffee stock. I think it was called Luckin Coffee. And they said this is the Chinese Starbucks. Get in. I mean, he was telling me get in. It was like $30, which is, it doesn't reflect how much a company's worth by the stock price, but that's a story for another time. But anyway, it looks cheap because it's $30. So he buys it. I was like, I don't buy China stocks because of what you just said. It wasn't a week and some headline, big scandal, they had cooked the books and were worth like 10% of what they said.
Yeah.
That stock went from 30 to 2. And those poor people left with the 2. They don't realize that that's $2 more that they could lose.
Well, but it's like anything else. It's like with the government. When you start talking about billions of dollars, I mean, you're going to have corruption. You're going to have everything that goes with it. I mean, it's too much money. Of course, Dad and I were sitting on a $150 million yacht. And the guy that owns it, he has two of them. He has the little one and the big one, he says. I'm not sure which one, 150 million. This thing was like a skyscraper building turned on its side. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So we're eating filet mignon, they were really great people. And we were talking about this. Dad looked over at him and he says, I've noticed something just being around here for the last few hours. And everybody at the table's listening. There's like 10 people at the table. Dad said, there's a big difference between millions and billions.
Yeah.
And so it was like a little pause, and everybody looked to see what the billionaire was, how he's going to react. He started laughing, and he said, "Well, I'm glad you noticed that.
The reason
this guy has billions.
The reason they make so much money,
and there was a big difference with it.
There was a big difference.
The reason it compounds so much is because the more money you have in a particular company or stock, the more you're obviously going to make. So it's like if you have a lot of money, you can really make a lot of money.
We've been talking about in the book of Acts, because you look at Acts 2 and Acts 4, and I've heard these passages used by, I guess you'd call them liberal theologians, that this is why communism works. Look at it right here in the early church.
Right. When that 432, we didn't read that last time, but it said all the believers were one in heart and mind. I mean, they had just had this big miracle. They had been put in jail, and they kept preaching, and they told everybody what was going on. And then all of a sudden, you just see they rallied together. No one claimed that any of his possessions was his own, but they shared everything they had. With great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus. They had the big picture, and much grace was upon them all.
Right.
I mean, how could anything negative happen here? There were no needy persons among them. Now, that's why I brought up that analogy, because they were taking care of them
right.
in whatever way wisdom was leading them through the Spirit. Look, we've all had conversations where there's a guy on our couch, and we're like, you have to make an assessment. Can this person work? And once you deem that, yeah, he can work, he's just lazy. You say, what do you tell this needy person? I tell him he needs to get a job. Mm-hmm. Quit being lazy.
That's correct.
But to me, the church is handling that just as much as there's a guy here who's unable to work, or something has happened, and I've thought, okay, I mean, you're using discernment, prayer, wisdom, encouragement to handle. The bottom line is you're in their life and you're figuring it out. That's what I mean by, it's not just, I'm going to go take all the rich people's money who worked hard for it and just give it to him. And you'll have a system like that where I don't have to worry about it.
But think about what you just said. So you took the choice out of the hands of the person who made the money and put it into some arbiter that decides. That's where our system is. So it's like, because look, we talk about it all the time. We give away a lot of money. We do it because we love people, and we feel like it's our responsibility as Christians to help people. We do it all the time. But that's our choice. It's not the government saying, no, we're going to take your money, 50, 60%, whatever we deem.
We're wiser and
we're wiser than you. That's exactly right.
Well, and I wanted to read this next part, because it says, there were no needy persons among them. From time to time, those who owned lands or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and put it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to anyone as he had need. So they were really helping the downtrodden, the lame, the crippled, maybe the mentally challenged, those who had circumstances not in their control. Mm-hmm. But I also know, when you read 1 Timothy, I also know that some of the strongest language in the Bible is geared toward people who will not provide for their family.
That's right.
That's true.
They're like, if you don't work, you shouldn't eat. 1 Timothy 5, I think, says that a person that does not provide for his immediate family has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever.
Yeah.
So I'm saying there's a two-way street to this, and this model was based, like all other successful models, it was based on Jesus and who he is and what he's done.
And you're right, as sort of the early church started evolving, people started, their weaknesses come out. So when you get along to the Thessalonians, when Paul's talking to them, they had the idea, they thought, well, he's fixing to come back just any time. And so a bunch of them just dragged up and said, we're just going to basically, quit working and he'll be here soon. But Paul chastised him. He said, no. You have to, that's your favorite verse about work with your hands, mind your own business. He's telling these guys, look, you can't just shut it down because we don't know when he's coming back. But their point was, because they said he's coming back. They were thinking just any minute.
Yep.
And so they thought, well, why should we work? But they missed the concept, which is throughout. When there's I don't know much about the lotteries, but apparently there's two big national ones. Well, both of them got up to about $1 billion. One of them was 850 million, the other was 975. The numbers weren't hitting. But so I'm hearing about it on the radio. I'm hearing they keep talking about the mega whatever and this one. And so I noticed every time, because I travel quite a bit, every time I would stop at a convenience store, I was having to wait forever because there was a line of people
buying
lottery tickets, been buying the thing. And so I was watching the fervor. I was listening to them talk about it because imagine you could be a billionaire, not really because they'd take half of it. So it created this craze, but I forgot what the odds were. It's just almost insane out of what the odds are that you're going to do that. But I was watching these folks and I thought, because I never buy one. And Lisa's like, well, we can't win if you don't buy one. I said, yeah, but it's just, it just feels like to me, why not just put it in the little jar at the thing? Because so one person, and I think it was Pennsylvania.
But what are you going to do with it anyway? But look, I'm saying that money's not going to make you happy. The Bible's filled with.
You said it earlier, contentment.
It's like what's the camel going through the eye of a needle? It's the root of all evils.
To Dad's point, we grew up down here on the river. We tell a lot of stories about our childhood, and we did today about robbing bees, honey bees. And, I love my raising, and we didn't have anything money-wise. Yeah. And the reason Dad and Mom never knew anything about investments is that you didn't have any money. Jay started out by saying some money I didn't need. Did that ever happen in the first 35 years we were doing it? We needed every penny to make it.
Look, I said that I could have found something to do with it, but you just have to make a commitment if you're going to put money in the stock market.
Right.
And
look, I think it's wise because it's a way to have some money at the end. If you get to the point where you can't earn money like you used to, when Jesus did the parables, he was basically doing a parable about the stock market. He told the guy, he was like, you could have at least invested the money where you didn't, just bury it in the ground.
What's funny is, some of my people who are actually, I'm talking about suit and tie investors that I know from church who work for investment companies. Well, they came to me and said, what are you doing? You don't need to do it. We strongly, they were doing it in a loving Christ way. They were just looking at me saying, don't do this. This is dumb. But surprisingly, when one of them was saying that, my wife, who knows nothing about the stock market, she spoke up because I was like, yeah, I appreciate it. And she's like, no, I don't think you understand. He's going to figure it out. But she was kind of taken up for me.
She had faith in you.
Well, she knows how I am. But if you make wise, good choices and you stay away from the two edges of fear and greed, you look up one day and it's like a snowball that you created that's going down a hill and it becomes
by the way,
a money-making machine.
Whether you think your money, if you have some money, you say, I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to put it in the bank. I'm going to put it in a CD, or I'm going to buy more insurance. Guess what? The bank and the insurance company, and guess what they're all doing with your money that's sitting there? Mm-hmm. Invest in the stock market. So whether you think you're investing in the stock market or not, if you just say, I'm going to hold my money, but they're using it, they're giving you a small dividend off of it.
And look, the reason I don't give a lot of advice or pick stocks, I mentioned a few. Everybody's life is different. This is the only thing I agree with the investment brokerages about, because they're like, if you go ask them a direct question, they're never going to give you an answer. Because number one, they don't want to be, if you say, what about that stock? And they're like, oh, I love it. It's awesome. Then it drops 30%. And you're like, hey, I thought you said it was awesome.
I'm suing you.
So they always say, well, it's according to your needs and wants. And everyone's different, and where your age is, and they come up with all this. But in a way, they're right.
Yeah.
People are different, and my goal is not to make a bunch of money. I told you, I like the system of it all. Now, the money that I'm going to make, I'm going to try to do something good with it.
Yep.
I mean, okay.
So next time we come back, if you want to read ahead a little bit, we've got a really interesting story in Acts 4 where we just were today, starting in 36 and through chapter 5 about lying to the Holy Spirit. And it involves money, which is really interesting. So
I would say
I think we set it up pretty good.
This is the most scary story in the Bible.
I agree.
It's a scary story.
It's a scary story. So if you want scary stories, tune in next time, Unashamed. Thanks for listening to the Unashamed podcast. Help us out by rating us on iTunes. And don't miss an episode by subscribing on YouTube, and be sure to click that little bell to get notified about new episodes. And for even more content that you won't get anywhere else, subscribe to Blaze TV at blazetv.com/unashamed.